campus to speak in the fall and the spring to educators about the experience you may have growing up as teachers and getting to love on children, and at that diverse children, because there will be so many unique experiences that you have in your classrooms and in your experiences with life. So each semester we get together and we talk about who would be a great person to share with us each semester about diversity and the impact that that has on education and how you need to be prepared for that. So this semester we chose Sean Nevills, and he'll tell you more about where he's from and what gives him the, I don't know, power is the word no. To share on this topic. Expertise. There's one. There's a good expertise to share on this topic. What I found though is you can ask him anything. So enjoy your time listening to Sean and getting all of the details you can out of the questions when talking together.
So I got
Sean, I'm going to have you stand over here
Zoom friends, okay.
where they can see you better. You'd stand right there. You don't have a PowerPoint or anything.
No, not for
That's tonight.
That's tonight. The fun stuff's tonight.
By the way, did any of you get an email about the Plohawk? That has a link to his talk tonight in that. So come there. Hopefully teachers are encouraging you to come, give me some extra credit. I will, if you show up, I will be able to generate your name from a list. I have a list of people that attend. Just
you can see if they attend on Zoom.
I can see that they attend. I can see how long they attend.
Oh. And what if they, Dr. Katie, will that be recorded?
Yes, it will be recorded, but we're not advertising.
Okay,
Right.
sorry.
Right. No, yeah, it'll be
So
recorded.
I would strongly encourage my kiddos in this
people to
group.
show up in
Yes.
time so they can ask questions.
We do have extra credit available for that. So I really encourage Plohawk lectures. They're wonderful.
My question is, what are you doing on a Tuesday night? Just come on.
Right.
It's a Tuesday night, small college town. I think somebody had an answer. What is
You
that?
can't hang out in large groups of people.
So is it mask on in here too?
You know what, Sean, I think if you're comfortable with your 6 feet, I think you're fine.
Okay.
It's hard to be a guest speaker.
If I move around, then I guess we'll just go there.
Yep.
Okay. This is middle school. Yeah, help me. What class are we in?
This one's inclusive classrooms.
Oh,
So this is K through 12.
K-12 inclusive.
Yes.
Awesome. So then we don't have any particular content then, no math education.
We have lots of different stuff. We have a lot of music ed, instrumental and vocal. We have ag ed. We have English ed. We have history. We have elementary, special ed, early childhood. You name it, we got it.
Got it. I'm assuming. Hey Sam, what's up, man? Are you physical education?
No, I'm a math education major.
Oh, but you're in the core. You got me all this.
I have practice. I have practice at 2:30. Sorry.
All right. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've been out here all day, so I've kind of lost track of my time, and that was the first time I used the bathroom in a very long time. My name is Sean Nevills. I go by, catch me on Facebook, Twitter, all that. It's Sean L. Nevills because my son is Sean Jr. and I don't want to be called Sean Sr. So I'm just going to say that. I currently am a CDC project director, CDC COVID-19 project director for the Society of Health and Physical Educators. It's a national organization, was established around 1880, serves about 200,000 plus health and physical education professionals, K through 12 higher education, future professionals, and so on and so forth. From St. Louis. St. Louis in the house? St. Louis in the house?
Mexico, that's like
Appreciate it. You get the gold star for closest to St. Louis today. Let's see. Okay, so where are we from? We got Mexico. Where else? What else is represented in this room right now?
Kansas. Out of Iowa.
Got an Iowa. Okay. A lot of Kansas, dog. Chiefs fans. I'm a bitter former St. Louis Rams fan. Yeah, it was real. It was real. I cried when they left.
Don't
So
you just love Stan Kroenke?
don't even get me started there. I went to, a matter of fact, the XFL team, the St. Louis Battlehawks. I went to that first game. That was pretty amazing. But the first thing they were saying was, okay. Apparently, St. Louis still has some healing when it comes to professional football. So that's where I am with that. But my background in education. So honestly, when I started, my first year of college was at the University of Iowa. I was a Hawkeye because I had these big pipe dreams of football because I thought I was the man, and I was. But just not that good. But I was a sociology major. Okay. I transferred. Iowa didn't work out. That was my first culture shock being from St. Louis, North County, St. Louis, then going to Iowa. You can imagine the changes I had to figure out there. So a little closer to home, went to Southwest Missouri State. It was at the time, now Missouri State was when I graduated. It was a criminal justice major my first year. Now, anybody here in the crime shows? Got crime shows? Yeah. What's your show of choice? Everybody goes Criminal Minds first. It's my wife. I don't know about that. What else? Anybody? Give some else.
SVU, Law and Order.
Psych. Okay. See, my problem when I'm an investigative reporter. I love the real crime shows. You know, Dateline, 48 Hours, Snapped. Yes, Snapped. I'm deep. I'm in deep.
Homicide Hunter with Joe Kinder.
See, we met. Homicide Hunter with Joe Kinder. Oh God, I still. The last episode is just on our DVR. I do not want to watch it because I would cry. Anyway, but I say all that to say I was a criminal justice major because I watched all these court shows and crime shows, and I thought I'm gonna be this. You know, that's me, right? I can do this and all that good stuff. I thought then I was going to probably be some sort of DEA agent and all that cool stuff in the field, a badge with guns, superhero, all that good stuff. And that didn't work out, so I just went back to the drawing board and said, okay, I think I'll do PE. Great trade-off, right? Yeah, so if you heard PE and you thought gym teacher and you had dry heaves, I apologize. Okay? Because I know not everybody had the same PE experience that I did. I was an athlete. I considered myself pretty awesome, right? But some of you may have been the one that just didn't dive, duck, or dodge enough, and you know that ball came flying and you were just the bearer of bad news every time. And I am here to say, as a project director for the Society of Health and Physical Educators, I am truly sorry. I'm sorry you were the one that had to get picked on in gym class. I'm sorry you had to go through that dreaded pacer test when you had to hear the beeps and you heard beep, 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 and it got faster and you couldn't do it anymore and you fell on the ground. I did that one time. You had to push. I apologize, okay? I'm sorry. From deep down, I'm sorry. But we're better than that, okay? We're better than that. The shirt says that, right? One of the programs with Society of Health and Physical Educators, one of their premier programs right now is Health Moves Minds. And it promotes not just health, physical education, it promotes the whole child, which is what you are all in the business of, is the whole child. So congratulations. But kind of going back through my background in education, when I finally graduated, got my master's, I was a GA, graduate assistant for the Missouri State football program. Obviously not as good as this one here, I heard. Congratulations on all your success. You all are amazing. I watch it. But, you know, I'm still a bear at heart. Not a bear cat. Did that. Went on to teach. My first year of teaching was mid-Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. I was an adaptive physical education teacher. So, you know, that was definitely probably the first time I ever learned to advocate because I'm dealing with students, you know, special education students with different abilities, mental and intellectual disabilities, you name it. Went from there, was a part of the coaching staff at Battle High School. We won state in 2014, Class 5. I still got my ring tucked away somewhere if I can find it. Then went on, became a head coach in Springfield. So I went back to Springfield, Missouri, and became head coach at Central High School. And was a PE teacher as well. Great time. We weren't as successful as we thought. The program is not a traditional winter, so I kind of knew that going in. Then you have to do all the rest of the stuff, and after a while, I'd done enough for the program to get it to a point, and left and became a middle school principal. Now, anybody in here is considering being a middle school teacher or principal, I truly pray for you and wish the best for you, okay? Listen, education in general takes special people. It takes really special people to be in middle school buildings, okay? I think you all can figure it out why, just a whole nother group, all right? They're amazing, they're wonderful, but I then got the opportunity to work for DESE, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and became director of health and physical education, so I got back into my niche and everything. And I started that job in December of 2019, which now is about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. A lot has happened since, right? So, I mean, to be honest, schools closed, our way of life changed, all these things happened. Best thing that happened, though, for our group, I was a part of MOSHAPE, which is the Missouri Society of Health and Physical Educators. We came together, all right? Professional organizations. When you get out in that field, make sure you have that. Whatever your content is, whatever your level of education is, make sure you get in with your professional organizations, especially in the time we're in now. And I'll kind of come back to that a little later, but make sure you have those professional organizations. Obviously, schools were closed. Some areas, when schools closed, school closed. I mean, no education, no teaching, no nothing. Some tried to make that pivot and go virtual or go, make sure I'm still there with you, some sort of learning. My son, 5th grader, actually got a packet that thick. What the heck am I supposed to do with a packet that thick? I still work, okay? We made it work. Mom stayed home, did her work, whatever. She's awesome. So yeah, we did good. We did good work, and then all of a sudden, the national organization called Shape America, and the rest is history. I'm here today now. Now, funny enough, when I was originally scheduled to be here, which is still on time here, but when I originally did this, I was only working for DESE, Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So just the added experience in life, and as you go through your careers, try not to look too much at the dollar signs. Try to think about the experience you're going to gain. I've been a special education teacher, a regular education teacher, a head football coach, track coach, assistant track coach, won a state championship. Just don't align yourself to those gains, those monetary gains, those rewards. Just think about the experience that you can gain in life and as you move up. So now I'm here doing this work. Things have happened, aka this coronavirus thing, if you've all heard of it, which now has become a part of my life. All right, it is what it is. It's cool. I get it. I understand. Funny story. 2, we're all wearing masks now. Me too. I've got mine. I'm just 6 feet apart from people. You can't see that. Anybody else watching on camera? I believe our profession matters. I'm an advocate for health and physical education. I believe our profession matters, okay? So let's think back a really long time ago, mid-March, when school started to close. We were now stuck at home, and our way of life was changing. What was the first thing you remember hearing to slow the spread? Huh? Say it out loud, anybody? I can hear. Stay home, that's one thing. Say it again. That's Health Education 101. Oh, we still matter. Yes, wash your hands, okay? The little things we teach little kids now, we have to, as a collective country, tell grown folks to wash your hands and don't use all the toilet paper. I never get that. Okay, so I'm old enough to remember September 11th, 2001. I think I was a sophomore in high school or something like that. And second period, I can remember it just clear going into my class, my English class. Buildings are falling in New York City. Okay, well, it's crazy. What's happening? And then getting on the bus that afternoon, everybody, like the gas stations were packed. Grocery stores packed, food off the shelves, all this stuff. How do we go from that to I need toilet paper? I need somebody. I've been trying to ask that question for 6 months. Explain how toilet paper was the thing we had that would save our lives. Listen, if we have to put the evolution of our species on toilet paper, we're in trouble. All right, just gonna put that out there. All right, so this thing we're dealing with and what you all will start to face when you get out into education, you start to get out into the field and become professionals and do work, do great work, is that what we found is that certain things in our society, inequities, always been there. And that's the thing with education and learning, is that certain schools that were able to, when schools closed, they kept teaching their students. Others didn't have that access, didn't have those resources, so they closed. What about those kids? Right? So as teachers, when you go out into the world, you're advocates, plain and simple, okay? Best thing about this classroom, our future professionals, our pre-service teachers, all of you, you are the most innovative, creative bunch, accelerating bunch in our humanity. You have taken this thing called technology and you've accelerated at a level that's beyond my comprehension. And I have children, okay? My generation, I think the best thing we came up with, you know, I was still Oregon Trail, so we were just kind of working on things on those old school Macs that had the Oregon Trail on the black screen, the white, all that fun game if you could ever actually find the original version. But the best thing we had is Facebook. All right, Facebook. That's it. That's all. I was in college by the time that came out. And some cool phones. All right. Well, you all have since Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You blew that up. Congratulations. Anything else? I just got Snapchat. There we go. All these things my teenage daughter has. Lord bless me. She started high school. Okay. And even in the virtual environment, there's still pressures. I don't know why. I don't know why as a dad. Once again, God's sick joke was giving me a girl first. To my gentlemen, you have a daughter. Best thing I can tell you is just think back on all those previous relationships and what you did wrong. Good luck. Yeah. Yeah. So you've made it better. You've taken technology, you've made it better, right? You're this creative bunch, and we need you. We need your voices, right? It's not just about voting. It's not just about doing the census. No, you're advocates. And what do I mean? So I go back. Once again, I was a special education teacher. Okay, I was adaptive physical education in the SPED, part of the SPED program. I was in meetings, IEP meetings. Break your heart. Families, for any of those who want to work with, younger ages, families in the room with the kids there for the first time, having to learn in front of this group of people that their child has a learning disability. How do you take that? I can tell you I've walked out of plenty of meetings crying. But guess what? You then become an advocate not just for that child, but for that family. Part of my conversation today, this evening is about education and evolving. And it starts with us. It starts with teachers, just like yourselves. Future professionals, 10 years in the game, 15 years in the game, it starts with us. Because we have the most precious thing our society needs. And that's these children, these kids. Once again, going back to when coronavirus, the pandemic of it took off, we're in our homes, misinformation, disinformation. We don't know if I need to buy toilet paper tomorrow or food. I don't know anymore. Definitely made for some interesting Walmart stops, I can tell you that much. So you take all that we've seen in our age, in your age, put that in this little package. When you're out there, you're teaching in the world, first off, you're gonna be prepared when it comes to the content of whatever subject you're teaching, whatever age you're teaching, you're gonna have that. What is hard, I can't say they can't, but what is hard to prepare for is when a kid looks you in the eye and says, last night, Daddy hit me. Or, I don't have food. Can I take a nap in your room? That's trauma. And more, more and more as things seem to get crazier. That's what obviously we're dealing with it. I've dealt with it during this time. Maybe some of you've dealt with it just because your way of life is just totally just went to something totally different. But the kids are too. The students are too. The children are too. It's going to look different. It's going to sound different. The stories are going to be different. But they're dealing with trauma. And the first thing I can tell you when you get out there in the field is make sure you take care of yourself. Once again, you have your professional organizations. What's your support system? Really, what do you have to think about that? Who do you have to go to when that kid tells you that in that moment? Daddy hit me. I don't have food. Can I sleep in your room? Mommy waved the gun at dad. I've heard these things. I'm not just telling you this because, I've heard these things. In my close to a decade in the classroom, I've heard these things. These are real. And you want to know why they're telling you? Why?
Because they trust you.
Because they trust you. They need somebody to care. There's nothing that can prepare you for those moments. Let me ask you this. Raise your hand if as a teacher, when you finally get out to the field, a teacher or in education, do you consider yourself an essential worker? Raise your hand if you believe you're an essential worker. More in this class than the other ones. I think I've already convinced you that's the problem. Think about the coronavirus and how it manifests the pandemic and everything. So when, school, or before it even got to that point, when the healthcare system was overran, our essential workers, our healthcare workers became essential. Then the economy started to change a little bit. Things kind of took a downturn. Then that person at Walmart that greeted you at the door every time, then became an essential worker, right? So then we needed to feed people. People still needed food. Delivery service took off. So then that Uber guy, the Uber Eats driver, what do you have here? Grubhub, whatever, that person became essential. Just a person working out of their car delivering food. So then why, when schools reopen and we are on the front lines of the most vulnerable, one of the most vulnerable populations, why aren't we essential? We are. We're teachers. We are on the front lines of one of the most vulnerable populations in our society, the kids, the children, K through 12. And why? Because just like everything else, from your healthcare workers to your food service people, we're changing lives. We, educators, teachers, principals, we are in the business of changing lives. And if you don't think for 1 second you can do that, or it's too much, there's that door. This profession is better off without you. You are advocates. You are advocates for your content, for your profession, for your students and family, and for your communities. Why? Why the community? Well, where do those kids go to, those families, when they leave your building or they log off in the virtual environment? Where are they going to? I don't know the stat, but most kids, most families, they stay obviously within a certain, mileage. I don't know, maybe you help me, stay within a certain, area of their home even after they graduate. Not a lot of people leave home, right? Or at least leave the area. They then become part of that community. You're a part of that community, whether you grew up there or not. That's where education is different. That's why education has to evolve. We have to be advocates. Let me tell you this, we're not going back to the way things were. Okay, back to September 11, 2001. Airline industry changed. A lot of things, security in our society changed for the better. It needed to. Something happened, there was a problem, we have to fix it. I'll tell you this, if by, I don't know this is gonna happen, but 2030, 2035, 2040, when potentially the next pandemic happens, if we still have people running to grab toilet paper and are still fighting, washing their hands, and possibly using masks, we're in trouble. We're in danger. We learned nothing of 2020. That's why we evolve. We are humans. We evolve. We are going to learn from this and get better. We have to. You are at the core of that. You are at the core of that. You have those stories. You're the advocates, even as future professionals. Why? Because we need you. Because, you know, teachers are hard to find nowadays. Subs are hard to find nowadays. They just, you know, anybody here subbing part-time that want to admit to it? No, okay. Used to be you needed 60 college credit hours to be a sub. Now you just need to take a 20-hour course, right? Dang, that's easy. Well, I might go back and sub it, but that'd be my side hustle now or something. Be my Uber. We're advocates. We have a platform. You all have a platform. Whether you're a future professional, you're in the building, you have a platform. Use it. You don't have to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers for that kid that looks me in the face and says, Daddy hit them, or Mommy waved the gun at Daddy, or couldn't feed themselves. What we all have, what education has that other professions may have, but I think we have the biggest of that. We have the heart. We care. We give a darn about these kids. The content, when you get out there in the profession, the content, the teaching, classroom management, may be a struggle, but that's the easiest part. You have to have the heart to stay in this game, to stay in this practice, to be good at it, to be great at it. Listen, you're already great when you walk into that building every day. I mean, when I was a middle school administrator, I prayed, and I'm not a religious man by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes I have to just stay in that car and pray to something that I could get through the day. But when I walked in that building, did it matter to those kids what I did in that car beforehand? What mattered is that I was there, and I cared. And if you're not in person and you're virtual, the fact that you're there and they can see your face matters. So you're essential. You're an advocate. Take a quick break. Anybody have any questions? Take a drink here. Any questions in Zoom land, Hannah?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So as an advocate, especially for kiddos who might be kids on the margins, as an advocate for kids who maybe have special needs and things like that, what do you think pre-service teachers need to know about how to become an advocate?
Well,
What should we teach them about how to become an advocate?
so once again, we already kind of have those tools. You have the platform, whether you know it or not. You have your platform because you're an essential worker. People rely on you for something, for a service that matters, and that's the education of one of our most vulnerable populations, right? You have to care. You said the question was, though, what was that question? One more time for me?
Question is, how do you learn to be an advocate?
How do you learn?
How did you learn how to be an advocate for those kids in your building?
So, best thing about us is we have eyes and we have ears. We see the struggles our kids go through. We hear the stories, right? And we care. You have to do more. You have to become more. So yes, take your time as you get there, really learn your community, learn about your students, learn about the community that you're in. Because here's the thing, you mentioned, a marginalized group. Marginalization in our society is not a black or white thing. Part of what I'm going to talk about, I've got the slide, it says blank lives matter. You fill in that blank. Now, right now, there's a particular group that's calling out for help. Why? Because we have seen it. It's been happening systemically for years, but we just spent the last 4 months seeing it. So that group is calling out. A few years ago, former president administration, our LGBTQ groups mattered because they wanted the ability to be recognized as couples, to be able to have a family, to live in a space where they're not marginalized. Well, before that, we lost, a pioneer in the struggle, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Think about women's suffrage. We're on a voting season. At one point, women didn't have those rights. Women's lives matter. Every day in our streets, I don't know how it is here, but definitely in the community I live, see people on the street, veterans, poor people, signs out there. Their lives matter. Anybody can be marginalized for any reason. I don't care if your parents make bank. For whatever reason, probably because you're going through trauma that has been not dealt with, you can be marginalized. And you can be in a situation of need. So let's remember that first. Anybody can be marginalized. But you just have to go. The first thing to do it is just to be an advocate, is just to learn. Care and learn. Learn what these students are really going through. That's how you change that life. It's not just going back and doing whatever. You have to understand what's going on. You have to understand your community. You have to be a part of something. You have to be part of something bigger than you. Good question, good segue. I'm a part of many different groups and organizations. I'm a part of, still, even though I live in Columbia now, I still represent minorities in business in Springfield. Springfield, at the time I was there, there was this need for, business owners of different values, not just minorities, but, we have groups in LG, our gay and lesbian group alliance there. They're a part of that organization. Obviously, women in business, things like that. I'll get to one other group here in a bit. Moved back to Columbia. I'm part of the Columbia Neighborhood Watch. Columbia has its crime issues. Probably not as bad as St. Louis, where I was born and raised. But for the size of town it has its issues. So I'm part of the Neighborhood Watch. Teachers of Color Network. There's a small group of teachers that want to come together, so I'm there to support them. In the teaching profession, teachers of color represent 20%. White teachers are 80, male or female are 77, Harvard News. Black male teachers are 2%, so I'm a unicorn in this room. I'm a unicorn in any space at that point. Just care, learn, know your community. Where are the issues? You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to care. You gotta care. If you don't care, once again, there's the door. Go into a space, be uncomfortable. Another group I'm still part of in Springfield, I'm not in Springfield, is the Springfield NAACP. Now, if you think NAACP, National Advancement of Color people, right? Think probably mainly black and brown. Well, the first meeting I went to sometime in 2016, I was on my pro-black kick, I'm black, I'm all this, black power, blah, blah. I go into this room, and I see some black people. Also see this elderly white couple. See a Hispanic person, okay, I expected that. Then I see gay person, there was a gay person, then there was a trans person that walked in. It's NAACP, it's colored people, right? Am I in the right room? Inclusion. This is an inclusive class, right? Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. That's what I did. That's the problem. I shouldn't have gone into that room knowing what to expect and then just get that blown away. Because the best thing about this particular chapter in NAACP, they have, it's organization, the president is black, but they have a veterans affair. Education committee. They, support LGBTQ community. Inclusion, what this world is all about. We're not a melting pot, we're a salad, right? Different colors, different perspectives. Every flavor, every strawberry nut, whatever you like in your salad brings something different to the plate. Okay, we all bring something different to this game, in this world, in this society. So just go, find a way to be involved. I know some people mentioned the book club. You can try that. Make sure it fits your values. Don't just walk into something you don't have a heart for, but when you really hear the needs of your communities, then what groups are around to support them. That's another thing about being a teacher is you're going to be looking for resources content-wise and then resource-wise. When the kid comes to you like, I'm hungry, well, there's only so many times you can give them that granola bar. There's a bigger issue at hand. They're not getting food at home. You're going to talk to the counselor who's going to then talk to probably the food pantry in your community. right? When that kid comes to you and tells them dad hit them, you're going to tell the counselor or tell somebody, or you're going to be a mandated reporter since you're an essential worker. You're going to have to report that. That is child abuse, which that's what we do as educators. We're mandated reporters. That goes to Department of Social Services. That's a community group, an organization. You have to get in with those things, those resources, those people. Any questions? It's a lot. It's heavy. It's deep. So, you know, it's, I don't think I talked much on this, but equity, it's a big thing. I was kind of hitting on it when I talked about some of those schools that closed and had nothing. It's an issue of equity. Missouri has an equity statement. My new organization, you know, they have an equity mission. Because once again, anybody can be marginalized. How can, take this quote with you, that this country is only as strong as the people we treat on the bottom. And when those lives are at stake, if we do nothing, that's when you see protests. That's when you see riots. That's when you see streets burn. Because the people at the bottom have not been taken care of. And it can be anybody. Fill in your blank of whatever lives matter. Fill in the blank. But equity. That's the fight when you all leave, is equity. And being advocates for this great profession of education. Being essential workers, you are. But voicing that, letting them know, we're here with these kids. We are putting, if we go back physically, we're putting our lives at risk too. We matter. And then when you know, unfortunately, you know, the economy is hit by this thing, so you're going to see budgets cut. You're going to, you know, right now I think it's Missouri is up to $400 million in education lost. It's a lot of money. Those are resources. That's access to internet. This infrastructure that's happening right now. Those are jobs. When you get out there, you better advocate. You better fight for something that's bigger than you. That's why I'm here. I've done it for, you know, students with disabilities, Black and brown students, poor students. My profession, health and physical education, better do it for something too. Or you are not evolving. Be the,
Can you tell us a little bit about your current project, the COVID-19
yeah.
project?
So, in the simplest terms, once again, my current position is CDC COVID-19 Project Director for Society of Health and Physical Education. The simplest way to put it is I do a lot of resourcing. So when schools were starting, making sure we're getting that information out to how can you, you know, how you support schools, how do you make that decision to open schools? What does that look like? How do you, you know, keep the environment safe and sanitary for students that are in the building if they're not in the building? So what does instruction, health and physical education instruction look like if they're not in the building? It's easy to do lessons it's easy to adapt the lesson when we're in person and physically distanced, but this virtual learning, that's an entirely different beast, that's new. So what resources are out there for virtual learning, okay? And then how do you support the student? How do you continue to support the well-being of the student? That's not an issue of just even health and physical education. Now, yes, I use health and physical literacy to do that, but how do you continue to be a supportive network for students and families in this time?
What's the biggest challenge you've seen for families?
It's what we're talking about, the trauma. I can tell you that from my own personal experience through all of this. Just because it's all new. It's all unknown, and it happened so fast. Now we're looking 6 months. Ooh, feels like 6 years, God. We're talking 6 months later, but the changes that happened were so fast. I mean, all of a sudden, we're not in school anymore. What do? You know, you put the pressures of the changes from a pandemic, and then whatever category you fall in after that. I'm a Black man. I have Black children. So then I'm sitting here, I'm stuck at home. I have nothing but news, and that's a whole riot in itself, at least it was. And then you couple that with me having to see, I've seen all these videos and read stories of the different bodies, the names, the hashtags. Then you start to question your worth in this society. And what does that matter for your children? Do their lives matter? So, I mean, that's the bigger issue, is supporting families and students, the trauma of it all. Because this, you know, yes, attendance, grades, those things matter. But those are just numbers on paper. The emotional, mental, social aspects of all this are going to carry you for a while. So I say make sure you have a support network around you, whatever that looks like. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah.
This is just, this might not be worded in a way that makes sense. And it could be a little bit, it is a little
I feel like I just rambled for 50 minutes.
That's fine.
They're used to me.
That's probably what I'm gonna do, but anyway. So I got the opportunity to observe in many different classrooms. Oh, I'm ag ed.
Okay.
Ag specific.
Essential
classroom.
worker, farmers, yes,
Yeah.
we need you.
So ag specifically, and I was in classrooms that were 8th grade to senior year in high school. And I did multiple states, multiple socioeconomic average, that kind of thing. It was really cool for me. But the thing that was consistent in those classrooms was the majority were white, male, cisgender, you know, that kind of thing. Very stereotypical for like my major career field. And there were times when a lot of the students were using like homophobic and racial slurs, and you know, they were being sexist or you know, genderphobic, that kind of thing. But the schools didn't have anything in place, or the teacher didn't support, you know, total acceptance, and they just let the students kind of like, you know, talk and say these really hurtful things, even with students that identified as, you know, transgender or were female. But anyway, so because there wasn't any policies in place, where the teachers weren't really like saying, don't do that, don't say that, that's not appropriate, that's rude. I went up to students and was like, hey, you can't say that in the classroom. And there's a girl in the corner over there, she's crying because of what you said. But I got shut down, and I couldn't report it. And I don't want that to happen in my classroom. How do you prevent that, even when your faculty may not support it?
You did. So what you were in that moment was an advocate. Right there. You were an advocate, okay?
I actually got kicked out of that program for saying.
Seriously?
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you regret saying something?
Oh, no.
Exactly. What I say, you have to stand on something. You have to stand on something, because when it all goes to crap and you lose something like a job,
Right.
you better have that value with you.
That program was a potential for me to get a decent job, like straight out of college, but I said it anyway, and I got in trouble for it. And I actually got this recommended by a couple of principals. So that was awesome. But I mean, I would hate for that to happen in my classroom. So I was
So,
wondering if, you know, you have those strong stereotypes, how do you make sure that your students are following total acceptance?
well, you're their advocate and you're their teacher. You're changing their lives by telling them what's right and what's wrong. Because there's still a right and a wrong in this society. That still exists. There's values, there's principles, but there's morals. There's right and there's wrong. That's what you're there for. That's fine, tell them. If you think it was a conversation that may have got a little too heavy, then you tell the people above you, hey, we had this talk in class. Maybe they give you guys, maybe you have to tell parents about that. Hey, we had this conversation. I deal with health education. There's a thing called sex ed, okay? I'm pretty sure we all did it differently. You know, we all heard something differently in our classrooms when sex ed was talked about, all right? But guess what? We gave families information, you know, common practice, give families information ahead of time. Hey, we're going to talk about this. You can opt out, which I don't totally agree with, because I think that's valuable information for children that are going to become their own adults in this global society, which gives them a whole different world of perspective. So it is what it is. But you are that person. You're that advocate in that classroom. If there's something that's above you, think it got a little heavy, then have that conversation. Tell them about it. Let them know, hey, this is what happened. Then you brought up the biggest P word, sorry, the P word that matters is policy. Policy. When you become a leader in whatever aspect that is, you get to change policy. You get to affect policy. So take that first story, use it. That's your story. That's a part of who you are. Advocating for that one person that you got kicked out of that program?
Yeah.
You got kicked out of a program.
They asked me to leave.
They kicked you out. You weren't going to leave if they didn't say anything,
Right.
right?
They weren't paying me. I was technically under contract, but I was there as a volunteer to get more experience in different states and in different socioeconomic classes, which I did.
It's part of your story. You all have them. Just like the stories, what the students are telling you, that's a part of your story. It's going to stick with you. Every one of those stories you're going to hear is going to stick with you. And it's going to change you, make you different, make you see the world different. Use them. Because once you get in a position like me, or a professor, you get to make real change. That's why I said you all are important. You are essential, teachers especially, because the trauma that's happening now, you're going to hear it in those young faces, because a lot of them are going to keep that trauma for years to come.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you heard the stories, how did you obviously you knew you needed to help them, but how did you get on? Because obviously you would have to teach. How did you kind of leave that aside and still be able to teach? If that makes sense.
Well, if I'm teaching in the moment, it's hey, I hear you. First, I acknowledge you. Thank you for telling me. I'm glad you told me, because Lord knows who else they're going to tell that won't give them good advice,
Yeah.
right? Let's come back to that. Hold on to that. Pin that. We'll talk when we get through this lesson or this next 5 minutes. We'll come back to that. Depending on the severity of it. Once again, your teachers or your mandated reporters, if it's an incident like that, or the gun at home, you have to report it. you just be there for that student as best as you can. Hey, what do you need? One thing I forgot when I was looking at, and I know we're getting, is it 250 they're out?
250, yeah.
Yeah. When I was having my worst moment and I'm seeing all these issues, my white friends called me. They asked me three words. How are you? That changes a life right there. That shows you care, shows you give a darn, you're willing to listen. You won't have the answers. You won't. Do it the best you can. You're not. The thing is, when you're ever faced with that situation, you are not wrong because you care. You are not wrong because you care. Right? You are not wrong because you care.
Oh my gosh, I could just stay in.
We can do it all. I know.
But I think I have a couple of takeaways that I want my students to think about today. So I want you to think about how you have evolved. I think that word is really powerful. How have you evolved as a learner now thinking about being on the other side of the desk? What does that look like? Number one. Number two, what are the things that are your passions that you advocate for? I think that this example is so powerful. What would you stand up for? As an educator, what are those things that matter to you? And the third thing is, I think that Sean's tale to me, the thing that I'm taking away the most is one of agility, flexibility, open-mindedness, and ability to roll with life as it comes. And I think especially your perspective as a Black man in America in 2020, I think that's a whole different level of rolling with things that I know that I've never experienced and I can't understand. So I think I want all of you to think about that. How can you stand up and be an advocate? How have you evolved? And what is your level of agility? What is your level of ability to adapt, improvise, overcome? What do you have inside of you that allows for that? And I think that's where we'll pick up on Thursday. Just have some conversations in our tables with that. So can we give Sean a hand? And so the email that Dr. Keeney referenced, the Zoom link, if you attend that Zoom link and attend Sean's conversation, I think will be very powerful.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, you will be able to receive my.
You did get the email, correct?
Take care, be safe. Please go change this world. We need you. Tonight.